Promote a culture of inclusion, supercharge your communication, and unleash the full potential of your teams and leaders with the Inclusive Handbook collection from the Diversity Movement. As part of the collection, I wrote the Inclusive Leadership Handbook with Kurt Merriweather to empower leaders with tools needed to cultivate a culture that fosters creativity, innovation, and employee engagement. Through strategies, exercises, and self-reflection, leaders at all levels can enhance their effectiveness. Learn more at thediversitymovement.com/store. Use code HOL at checkout for 25% of your first order. Do you want to build your brand by being a guest on industry-leading podcasts? If you're a business leader, an author, or a speaker, my guess is that you do. Picture this. You, a dynamic executive easily connecting with engaged audiences, turbocharging your top-of-funnel marketing, and creating a treasure trove of content with every episode. Podcasting is a game changer that you've been waiting for. And podcastally.com is your VIP ticket to podcast PR success. Say goodbye to the ordinary and hello to the extraordinary exposure. Let the Podcast Ally team connect you with the best-in-class podcast for you to be a guest on. Head over to podcastally.com and use the promo code DT for a 10% discount on Podcast Ally services. That's podcastally.com, promo code DT. Welcome to High Octane Leadership with Donald Thompson. This season, we're diving deeper with more solo episodes, where I'll share the experiences that have led to recognition by EY, Forbes, Fast Company, and others. Not as a boast, but as milestones on my entrepreneurial path. From growing multi-million-dollar firms to successful business exits and building high-performance teams with a global perspective. I'll reveal the insights and strategies from my journey and share them with you so that we can win together. Alongside these solo episodes, we'll have industry visionaries and thought leaders, and we'll explore effective leadership. Ready to empower your leadership journey with real success stories? Let's embark on this transformational journey together. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is the repackaging of the term diversity, equity, inclusion. There's a recent Washington Post article that really talked about the backlash on the name DEI and that a lot of companies are continuing with the programming, but they're changing the nomenclature. They're starting to talk about inclusion. They're starting to talk about workplace belonging, which is all good stuff, right? What I want to describe today is the way that we're thinking about things at the diversity movement, the leadership and CEO level coaching and advisory services that I provide, and how we're really taking a look at a term that we're calling employee engagement growth model. And so our employee engagement model, very simply, looks at an area of focus that everyone can agree with, right? If you're a C-suite leader, if you're a leader in HR, if you are a manager of frontline professionals on a construction site, of frontline workers that are tellers at a bank, frontline professionals at a food service, a food market, whatever you want to call it. We all understand that to the degree that our employees are engaged, better customer service, increase our sales numbers, better referrals from our clients. All the research that shows when you have an engaged employee base, it creates measurable growth impact for your organization. And so one of the things that we found with the term diversity, equity, inclusion is people are hijacking the term into a race war, into we're talking about sexual orientation only. We're looking at gender pay gap only, when really what is diversity, equity, inclusion? It is a fundamental construct to create a better workplace for all. And this has to do with giving and receiving feedback. This has to do with leadership education. This has to do with improving your inclusive language in the workplace. It is a kaleidoscope of things, but there comes a point in time where packaging and nomenclature, marketing of something, matters. Because you don't want to spend the time on the negative outcome where you can create common ground a common sense of understanding and acceptance right out of the gate. And so our employee engagement growth model thinks about it like this. If you're listening to the sound of my voice, you take out a blank sheet of paper and think about this mental model as a pyramid. And at the top of the pyramid, you write employee engagement. And what we want to think about with employee engagement is that is the organizational objective. That is the critical element of measurable growth that you can track, that you can manage, that you can measure its performance throughout an organization, right? And then underneath employee engagement, you're going to have 4 pillars. These are team outcomes. And those team outcomes are collaboration, productivity, innovation, retention of your top talent. And so when you think about a CEO wanting a more engaged workforce, what does that leader want that engaged workforce to be able to contribute, to deliver to the organization? Those team outcomes are less silos, more collaboration, less downtime, more productivity, less same old, same as, more innovation, less revolving door, and more retention. And so those team outcomes are areas under employee engagement that allow us to see measurable benefits from our pursuit of that top line growth goal, which is employee engagement. We then drill down to underneath the team outcomes and we write 3 pillars: well-being, belonging, and trust. When you think about what an individual needs in order for them to collaborate, what does an individual need in an organization in order for them to be productive, to want to put out new ideas and innovate, and to want to stay with an organization? They need to feel well-being at work. That well-being has to do with their relationship with their manager and team members. That well-being has to do with the physical environment that they're working in. That well-being has to do with whether or not they can integrate work and life. It has to do with their mental well-being. That pillar of belonging: am I comfortable here? Do I fit here? Do I matter? Would people miss me if I was gone? Do I have a friend at work that I can talk to, confide in? Does my manager trust and respect me? Those elements of belonging are critically important when you want people to perform at their best, to be most collaborative, to be most productive. And do I, as an employee, in my individual needs, do I trust my manager? Do I trust the company to do right by me? Do I trust the environment is good for me? And then underneath those pillars, you would write the leadership strategies. Inclusive leadership, which is the ability to create an environment where everyone can come together and do their best work. Diversity, equity, inclusion programming, to where people can feel belonging and safety, no matter what their socioeconomic position, their sexual orientation, the generation that they come from, the geography that they come from, where differences in an organization are celebrated, where your uniqueness is not something to be held against you, but something that an organization will foster for the benefit of you as an individual and for the organization itself. Is there good, strong communication? One of the things that companies are really good at doing is external branding, external communication, PR, messaging. We all tend to fall down in employee communication, delivering information on change, pathways to promotion, recognition. All of these things are elements of employee communication that creates a leadership strategy that drives employee engagement. When we think about psychological safety, physical safety, well, how are people going to share their best ideas and collaborate, innovate, want to be retained by the organization? if they don't feel emotionally and physically safe within the building. Those things are in conflict. And so when we think about relationship building, we think about professional and career development. These are strategies that allow the individual's needs to be met. When you're successful in these leadership strategies, inclusive leadership, DEI, employee communication, psychological and physical safety, quality relationships, professional and career development. When these leadership strategies are implemented at a high level effectively, it drives an increase in well-being and belonging and trust. And when the individual needs are met, then it is easier to drive towards the team outcomes, which are collaboration, productivity, innovation, and retention. And then ultimately that organizational objective, which is a high degree of employee engagement. What we've done in our research and working with hundreds of companies across industries is we've looked at what is the central lens that if we all look at together, we can see through that lens all of the elements of how to build a better workplace for all. And for us, that lens is employee engagement. Because an engaged employee is now going to create an environment in how they speak with their coworkers and what they expect from their managers. And there will be a standard of excellence in the organization that is higher because engaged employees want to do great at work. Employees that are disengaged just want to be there till 5. And when the clock strikes 5 or 4:30 or 5:15, whatever the end of that business day is, they're not out the door. They're already in their car on all the way home. They're either at their computer and they're doing 5 or 7 different things versus a laser focus of the business at hand. And so while there's a lot of discussion, a lot of drama, a lot of noise about whether or not DEI is good for business, whether DEI is a social construct or whether it helps you build a better workplace for all. Our expectation, and again, the Washington Post article, DEI gets a rebrand. Personally, I don't get hung up on what you call things. I get hung up on what we deliver. And when we help organizations deliver better collaboration, better productivity, better innovation, better retention, that ladders up to employee engagement, we're having great relationships, long-term partnerships, and successful outcomes with the CEOs that partner with us. When I think about the way our political engine is geared towards discord versus harmony, our media and our entertainment is pulling away, pulling against. When what all CEOs that I talk to, and I'm very careful with the word all, but all the CEOs I talk to are trying to build a more competitive, more sustainable, more innovative business engine so that they get their President's Club bonuses, they get more stock options, they can be and build a legacy at the company that they're leading. I have a very positive view on the motives and motivations of C-suite leaders. And I think a lot of times things get confused simply because we're using language that's been hijacked and put into a negative space. So in conclusion, when you're thinking about how to create, sustain, and build momentum for organizational change, slow down and think about the lens through which you're looking at that picture. And my strong suggestion is to look through the lens of employee engagement and then look at the pillars, the strategies, the individual needs, the team outcomes that ladder up to employee engagement. most of the time success is not easy, but it's also not as complicated as we make it. And the more engaged your workforce is, the higher the performance they will deliver. The higher performance they deliver, the easier it is to retain them. The easier it is to retain, the more you can have a workforce that's innovative, productive, and collaborates well with one another because they're feeling that well-being, that belonging, and that trust because you've demonstrated inclusive leadership. Sometimes I'll take 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, sometimes it only takes 15 to 20 minutes to share something that's crucial to your long-term growth as a business leader. And I think employee engagement is the lens through which all of us should see how we can grow and prosper within our organizations. Thank you for joining us on High Octane Leadership with Donald Thompson. Today's episode is a step in our collective journey towards leadership excellence. Remember, every story we share and every insight we gain is a piece in the puzzle of our leadership journey. For more insight and detail, hit the subscribe button so that we can stay connected. For deeper information and more episodes, go to donaldthompson.com. Continue to lead with vision and purpose, and until we meet again, embrace your role as a high-octane leader in the ever-evolving world of business.